Welcome to 100 Days of Python. This is day 30, and this is a Code Along With Me challenge where you can learn Python by coding along with me a little bit each day. My name is Bill Mosley, and if you want to access the entire list of the daily Code Along challenges for the 100 Days of Python, you can check out my website at bmosley.com/hdp. There's a link in the notes for this video. Let's get started with day 30. And on day 30, we are going to take our rock, paper, scissors game, which was back on day 15, and we're going to reconfigure it to be a little bit better structure using what are called custom functions. And so here's the game to start with. Right here, it's going to be, okay, so here's the game itself. It asks you to choose rock, paper, or scissors, and you choose R, and it just goes one round, and you entered rock, the computer chose rock, and it's a tie. So that's where we're going to be starting out, and we're going to make it a little bit better than that. But we're going to start out with this starter code here, and again, you can get that from the website, but I'm just going to copy all of that, and I'm going to paste it over into a new file, close the old one, and that's where we'll begin. So in using custom functions, what our idea here is to break up the code into sort of separate areas so that we can debug it easier and so that we can reuse things a little bit easier. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get the computer's guess, and this is a really easy custom function. And so what I'm going to do right above that block of code is I'm going to say def for defining comp guess. And I don't need any parameters there. And in fact, I'm going to just take this and indent it so that now this belongs to that. And the last thing I want to do is return strcc. So the computer's choice, or the computer's guess, is going to be sent back from this. So anytime I want to get an R, P, or S from the computer, all I have to do is call this function, and it will return that in its place. So now I'm going to also take this code, and I'm going to return that as well. So I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to paste it into here, so it's part of that. And then I'm going to return those as a tuple. And what that allows me to do is access those multiple values independently of one another. So computer's guess is going to return an R and or a rock, paper, or scissors, depending on what the value is. So I'll return an R, P, or S, and then a rock, paper, scissors in that value as well. So that'll be useful for me. The next thing I want to do is I want to get the user's guess. And the user's guess is going to be encapsulated by this part right here. So I'm going to take all of that, and I'm going to indent it, and then I'm going to put that inside a function, user guess. Again, no parameters. So now this is going to return both. I'm going to return the same thing for the user guess, which means it's going to be str return struc and strucp, and we're going to take those and return them as a tuple. So user guess, computer guess will both return a tuple where the first member is the RPRS and the second member is the long word that we want to use in our sentences. So far, so good. So we've got a user guess and a computer guess. And the third function that I want to create is the one that says who wins. So let's take this whole thing here, right here, all of this, and let's also include those. So we're going to copy that. Actually, I don't need to. I'm just going to indent at one stage here. And I'm going to say def who won. And this is going to take two user guess, and that's going to be a tuple. So I'm going to call it T user guess and T computer guess. And what it's going to take are these return values. And so I'm going to unpack those right now. And I'm going to say str uc, str ucp equals T user guess. So that'll take the first thing and I'll put it back in here, take the second thing and put it back in here. This is just communication between the function and the outside world. So we're going to do the same thing with the computer guess. So we have strcc, strccp equals T computer guess. And now that logic is going to work. But what this is going to, it's going to print out the thing, but I also want it to return who won. So it's going to return either a C for computer, a U for user, or a T for tie. So I'm going to say str return equals a T in this case. And in this case, it's going to be, let's say, the computer wins. Str return equals C. So on all the computer wins, we're going to have it return a C. And then on the user, when the user wins, we're going to return a U. So we're setting this variable to that. Oops, let's not unindent that. I'm going to go down here like this. And the very last thing in that is it's going to be a return str return. So now, depending on who wins, it will set the return value to a T, the computer, or the user. So now I can keep track of who won. So I've got three functions here. And if I roll those up, I don't really need to worry so much about what's in them anymore. But you can see here that pretty much my whole program is now rolled up into these functions. And if I want to str who won, if I wanted to create a variable and I want to call who won, what I can do here is I can say user guess, comma, computer guess. So I'm actually calling the who won, and I'm getting the user guess and I'm getting the computer guess from those functions, and they're getting passed directly into these parameters. And then who won is going to return a computer one, a C, a U for the user one, or a T for the tie. So if I print that out, I can say, I can get that value of who won as a string. So let's check this out. Let's run it and see how it works with the new configuration. Okay, so it works perfectly, and there is my result. It's a tie. Let's run it again. Still a tie. Okay, there's a not a tie, just to prove that it worked. You entered rock, the computer entered scissors, you won. So now, let's see if we can set this up so that we can play multiple rounds to see who won the overall game. So let's say the first person to win 2 rounds wins. So if I want to say int C score and int U score, we'll set them both to 0. And X, get rid of that. Okay, so I'm going to start a loop here, set the scores to 0 at the beginning. And I'm going to create a while true loop. And for each round, they're going to play around like this, and str who won will tell me what the score is. It'll say, so print, you have won int, oops, we got to have an F string here. It's not going to do anything for me. Int U score. And then we'll say the computer score. The computer has won int C score. Now, let's throw in a little line break at the end of that. And then we'll say if int C score is greater than 1, let's say if it's equal to 2. So whoever wins 2 games first. If the computer wins 2 games, print the computer has won the match. And then we break the loop because the computer has won 2 games. Elif int U score equals 2, then print you have won the match. And so we'll break the loop. Now we don't really need an else here, because if nobody wins, if neither of the 2 has won, then it's just going to keep playing. And so how do we increment the store? So we're going to say if str who won, I'll go ahead and put that in parentheses, equals the computer, right? Then int C score plus equals 1. So we add 1 to the computer score. Elif str who won equals the user. Then we increment their score by 1 plus equals 1. And if it's a tie, it's just going to be the else. Nothing happens. So we can just leave that off. If else is empty, there's no reason for it to be there, because we already said it's a tie up here inside the who won, right? So if it's a tie, we say it's a tie, and then we can ask them again who won. And if anybody wins the match, that'll be it. So let's try this out. Rock, paper, scissors, R. Okay, so the computer, you chose rock, the computer wins. You won 2, the computer has won. There's a 0 and a 0, which should be the case. There should be the computer. Oh, wait, that's because we have this above the place where we're adding the score. So let's switch that. Now we're reporting the score after we add the points for that round. So let's try this again. Okay, so rock, computer chose scissors. You have 1, 1. The computer is 1, 2, 1, 0. I'll just stick with rock here. Now it's tied 1 to 1. And then I had a rock, computer chose scissors. You won, 2. You won the match. So there you go. One thing we can do after the match is over is we could ask if we want to play again. So what we would do is we take all this and we're going to indent it one level. And then I'm going to put it in another while loop. And when I break out of this one, it'll go to this next while loop here. And so I want to indent only one space from the edge. Watch, make sure that it's lined up with this one. And I'm going to say input, and I'll say str again equals input, play again, and we'll say yes or no. And we only are interested if they say no. So if I say if str again equals no, then break, and we'll say the very last thing we'll break out of that last loop is we're going to say thanks for playing. So thanks for playing my game. All right, and so let's go ahead and break that up just a little bit more. Now let's run this and see how it works. So we do rock, it's a tie, do rock again, it's a tie, computer's 1, 1, tie again, lots of ties today. Rock, paper, and scissors. Now we have 1 each. The computer's won the match, and now it says play again. If I say yes, then we play rock, paper, scissors again, and we're starting over. Okay, one thing I forgot to do is reset those variables. So the score needs to be reset to 0 if we play again. So if we choose yes, we're resetting that score to 0 before we play again. Okay, and then we'll say print starting a new game. And there you have it. And so that is how we can use functions, and functions that pass, that take other functions as parameters, or as arguments rather, to simplify our game. Now, if we want to debug our game, it's easy to find where the problem is happening. So we've isolated this, and we could break this down even further, but at some point, you're kind of working against yourself. So when you're using custom functions to break something up into smaller pieces, you want to balance between, you want to balance between how big your custom functions are and what kind of functionality you put in there. So that's a bit of a art form, but if you balance the two, you can get a lot of mileage out of custom functions. And so you can see my whole code is just outside of what will fit on my screen here, but that's a fairly complex game, or game logic, in a small amount of code, thanks to these custom functions here. And that is 100 Days of Python, day 30.